Imagine a weapon in orbit capable of vaporizing a city block in seconds. There is no government oversight, no public voting, no off switch. Now imagine that weapon is owned by the people we call heroes. We're taught a simple rule about power. The more of it you gather, the more dangerous you become. But Justice League Unlimited did something far more sophisticated. It didn't show us heroes turning evil. It showed us something much more unsettling. It showed us how power can stay good and still become a threat to humanity. On paper, this show is a celebration of the impossible. We're looking at a near limitless roster of God-level beings, global reach, orbital surveillance, instant response to any threat. But the show's true genius isn't in the showmanship, it's in the friction. It recognized that the League's true struggle wasn't defeating villains, it was a terrifying burden of their own existence. Because once a hero stops asking for permission, they stop being a neighbor and start being a ruler. The League didn't just grow, it expanded. It became an empire of virtue. This expansion wasn't about service. It was about expansionism. Opening the Watchtower to dozens of new heroes was a radical shift in the global hierarchy. The League stopped being a circle of friends and became an unaccountable institution. Decisions were no longer human, they were procedural. Missions were assigned, risk was calculated, heroes became resources in a global machine, and the show never let that transition feel safe. You can feel the shift in how the scenes are staged. The meetings are vast, cold, and bureaucratic. The League didn't just watch the world, it began to look down on it. And that height creates a very specific kind of vertigo. The League knew they were drifting. They knew that when you live in a palace in the stars, you lose touch with the dirt. That's why they recruited Green Arrow. He wasn't a gift. He was a ticking clock. He was the only one brave enough to point at the Watchtower and call it what it was, a fortress. In the episode Initiation, he doesn't celebrate their power, he fears it. He asks the questions that the gods are too busy to answer. And while the League listens, they don't change. They didn't want a conscience to stop them. They wanted a conscience to justify them. Green Arrow was the warning sign, but even a warning can't stop the momentum of a god who thinks he or she is saving the world. And that's when the League's certainty finally turned into a fist. The episode Clash is the moment the mask slips. On the surface, it's a fight between titans. But beneath that, it's a survey on unchecked righteousness. Superman isn't acting out of malice, he's acting out of a terrifying absolute certainty. Superman wins the fight, but he loses the world's trust. The silence that follows the battle isn't heroic, it's haunting. The buildings are gone, the crowd is terrified. The Man of Steel realizes that being right doesn't matter if the people you're saving are looking for the nearest exit. The show doesn't comfort us here. It leaves us with the image of a hero who has become a giant, stepping on the very things he's meant to protect. From here on, the show forces us to realize that every decisive action by the League narrows the world's future. Every show of strength is a reminder of how little we can do to stop them. Batman understands this better than anyone. He isn't a moral anchor, he is the internal friction. He exists to break the machine before it becomes a monster. He doesn't just question power, he actively plans for the day his friends fail. His presence is a cold comfort, the reminder that the only thing keeping the League good is a man with a contingency plan for every one of them. This tension reaches its breaking point in the Doomsday Sanction. The League makes a choice that leaves a permanent stain on their legacy. They didn't just defeat Doomsday, they decided he shouldn't exist. They erased him from reality, no trial, no appeal, just a quiet clinical execution from orbit. There is no victory music, no cheering, just a cold realization that the League has become the judge, the jury, and the silence that follows. They solved the problem, but they proved they have the power to decide who lives and who dies. And that is a power no one should have. This is the reality of the Watchtower. Justice League Unlimited shows us that even with the best intentions, power creates a gravity that pulls everything toward it. And sometimes, the only way to survive that gravity is to build a counterweight. Enter Amanda Waller. She isn't the villain of this story. She is the necessary nightmare. Waller is the human race's insurance policy. Her logic is chilling because she isn't wrong. Someone has to be the off switch for a god. Task Force X doesn't exist to fight evil. It exists to fight the possibility of it. In a world where the League can vaporize a city from space, Waller is the only person acting with pure human logic. She isn't fighting for power, she's fighting for balance. Batman understands Waller immediately because they are two sides of the same coin. They both know that trust is a luxury the world can't afford when the stakes are absolute. Their confrontation isn't a battle of good versus evil. is a debate about survival, and the show refuses to give us a winner. Waller isn't defeated, the League isn't absolved. The tension remains as heavy as the Watchtower itself, and that unresolved fear is exactly what makes the series a masterpiece. Even the fractures within the League aren't a healthy sign. They are a stress test. In Divided We Fall, the League splintering is the only thing that saves them from themselves. They had to break to realize they were becoming too solid, too immovable. Power doesn't corrupt in Justice League Unlimited. It calcifies. It becomes a wall between the hero and the human. And that's why the series endures. It never gives us the clean win we want. It shows us that every save comes with a cost, and every victory adds another brick to the wall. The League never ascends beyond the fear of the people they serve. By the end, the Watchtower is still there, a beacon of hope, but also a reminder of our own powerlessness. The League chooses not to rule, but we are left wondering, for how long? Justice League Unlimited proved that the most dangerous thing in the universe isn't a monster. It's a hero who has run out of doubt. It treated authority as a burden that must be renegotiated every single day, often in the dark and often with blood on the floor. It didn't give us perfect heroes. It gave us a system that was one bad day away from total collapse. And in doing so, it showed us the true cost of peace and the terrifying courage it takes to hold the line when you're the one who drew it. So looking at that Watchtower in the sky again, who do you actually trust? Do you trust the gods who promise there will always be good? Or do you trust a human with her finger on the trigger? Let me know in the comments.